A poor maid bought a gift for her boss with her own card. Every dollar scraped from cleaning floors and packing leftovers into tiny plastic bowls, never imagining what her boss would do for her, or how that moment would shock everyone watching her life change forever. Emily Carter, a tired maid in a faded uniform, stood trembling in a crowded store, holding a small gift she paid for with her last card balance, while her wealthy boss, Daniel Weston, a man born into privilege and power, never expected kindness from someone who barely had enough to survive. Yet here she was, a poor maid buying a heartfelt gift for her wealthy boss. She smiled through exhaustion, believing gratitude mattered more than money. But why would a poor maid sacrifice her only remaining funds to buy a gift for someone who already had everything? And what kind of boss would a billionaire-level employer be? Cold and entitled, or quietly watching with a heart no one believed he had? But when this poor maid bought that gift with her own card, what the boss did for her afterward didn't just surprise the world, it changed her life forever. So why did a poor maid risk everything for a gift meant for her rich boss? And why did the wealthy boss respond in a way no one saw coming, but everyone will talk about forever? Emily Carter wiped a smear of detergent from her cheek with the back of her hand, breathing in the faint scent of lemon polish that clung to her uniform. Her shift wasn't even halfway done, yet her feet felt like they were sinking through the marble floors of the Weston penthouse. 12 hours a day as a maid, sometimes 14 when the laundry piled high and the kitchen staff called off. But she never complained. Complaining was a luxury, like sleep, like time, like peace. She moved silently through the grand corridor, floors gleaming beneath chandeliers that looked like frozen stars. Even after a year working here, the beauty of the place still stunned her. The Westons lived at a height, literally and figuratively, that she could barely imagine. Floors of glass, gold accents, rooms she'd never been allowed to enter, and wherever she turned, luxury, soft carpets, velvet chairs, priceless art. She cleaned it all, then returned each night to a cramped basement apartment where pipes groaned like tired old men and the wallpaper peeled like dead skin. She paused outside the executive office door. Inside, she could hear his voice, firm, calm, steady. Daniel Weston. The man who owned this world, and the man who barely noticed hers. He was young, mid-30s, razor-sharp jaw, posture that radiated authority. Some said he was cold. Others whispered that heartbreak shaped him. Emily didn't know which version was true, only that his presence demanded quiet and respect. He moved like someone who never feared a thing in his life. Because when you have power, fear is optional. Emily adjusted her maid badge and knocked gently. The conversation inside paused. For a heartbeat, she thought she had interrupted something important. Then a smooth voice answered, "Come in." She stepped inside, eyes fixed on the floor out of habit. She always felt small here, like a child entering a cathedral. Daniel leaned over a stack of files, navy suit tailored perfectly, dark hair slightly tousled as though business stressed even men like him. Behind him, floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the city skyline, wealth stretching as far as the eye could see. "Yes, Emily?" he asked, polite but distant. She swallowed. "Sir, the dining hall has been polished and the laundry sorted. Would you like coffee now or after your call?" He lifted his gaze to her, eyes steel blue, unreadable. "After. Thank you." His attention returned to paperwork. She turned to leave when his voice stopped her. "How's your brother doing?" The question nearly made her stumble. He remembered. He's okay, sir," she stammered. "The doctor said he needs another scan soon." A quiet hum of acknowledgement. She wondered if he truly cared or if politeness was simply practiced into muscle memory among the rich. "You're doing good work here," he said simply. "Consistency matters." That was how Daniel Weston praised. Measured, controlled, like emotion could crack glass. Still, warmth fluttered in Emily's chest. Approval meant something. She didn't get much of it in life. "Thank you, sir." She backed out quietly, heart unexpectedly light. In the hallway, she exhaled slowly. She never told him details. Never that her younger brother, Noah, was sick. Never that hospital bills swallowed her life whole. Never that she skipped dinner 3 nights a week so he could eat better. That wasn't his burden. She didn't believe the wealthy owed her sympathy. Hard work was her currency. Gratitude was her wealth. She glanced at her phone. New message. "Don't forget tomorrow is his birthday." Daniel's mother had sent a reminder earlier to all staff. The billionaire CEO had everything: yachts, estates, a family legacy, influence. The only things he rarely received, according to whispers, were sincere gestures, real affection. People around him liked his power more than him. Emily thought of her brother's smile. How she wished someone would treat him like he mattered, and that's when the thought landed in her heart. A tiny gift. Something simple. Something honest. She didn't have much, but she had appreciation. And appreciation, her mother used to say, is richer than gold. When her shift ended, she hurried to a small gift shop 3 blocks away. She stood there for 20 minutes, fingers brushing delicate items, pens, frames, small sculptures. What could a maid possibly buy a billionaire? Nothing he needed, but maybe something symbolic, something that said, "I see you as a person, not a paycheck." Her card balance glowed on the machine when she checked it, 24.17. That was supposed to stretch 3 days, but she chose a sleek silver pen with subtle initials, DW, and a simple black gift box. Classic, elegant, respectful. At the counter, swipe, hesitation, swipe again. She held her breath. Approved. A victory. Small, fragile, but hers. Outside, she hugged the bag close, ignoring the bitter cold that bit through her coat. This wasn't about money. It was about gratitude, respect, humanity. Yet as she walked toward the bus stop, a whisper crawled into her chest. Would a billionaire even appreciate a gift from someone who had nothing? Would he laugh? Be offended? Ignore it? But then she remembered the brief kindness in his eyes and clung to hope. She couldn't know that while she walked away, clutching the gift like a treasure, Daniel Weston stood at his window, watching the city glow, an expression flickering across his face that no one ever saw. Half sorrow, half longing. He had no idea a maid had just spent her last dollars to honor him, and neither of them knew that tomorrow everything would change. Emily woke before the sun, alarm buzzing in the cold darkness of her tiny basement room. Pipes groaned above her like restless ghosts, the radiator hissing weak heat into the stale air. Her fingers felt stiff as she pulled on her maid uniform, smoothing the faded fabric out of habit, not because it looked any better. A small wrapped box sat neatly on the table beside her. Black paper, a silver bow she tied 3 times before getting right. Daniel Weston's gift. Her last money. Her biggest risk. She tucked it carefully into her worn tote bag and whispered to herself, "Please let today be good." The bus ride to the Weston estate felt longer than usual. She sat pressed against the window, breath fogging the glass, heart tapping a nervous rhythm. She replayed scenarios in her mind, Daniel smiling and appreciating the gesture, or staring coldly, wondering why a maid dared buy him anything at all. Emily swallowed. Not everyone understands sincerity. When she arrived, staff buzzed through the mansion like bees preparing a royal celebration. Silver trays, fresh flowers, expensive wines arranged on polished tables. Daniel Weston's birthday wasn't a party, it was a display. The world would watch, business elites would attend. But Emily wasn't part of that world. She cleaned after it. "Morning," whispered Rosa, another maid, rushing past with napkins stacked to her chin. "You look pale." "Just tired," Emily said. Rosa tilted her head. "And worried. Something on your mind?" Emily hesitated. "I got Mr. Weston a gift." Rosa froze mid-step, eyes widening. "You got the billionaire a gift?" Emily nodded nervously. Rosa's mouth opened like a gate, yet to decide whether to warn or laugh. Instead, she whispered, "You're either incredibly brave or incredibly crazy. Maybe both." Emily gave a small smile. They hurried into their duties, silence stretching between them until Rosa's expression softened. "Your heart. That's rare here. Just be careful. People mistake kindness for weakness in houses like this." Emily tucked the warning into her chest. Hours later, Daniel entered the dining room. Staff straightened instantly, posture stiff with practiced respect. He wore a charcoal suit, hair brushed back neatly. The quiet power around him sharpened like a blade. But his eyes, they carried something tired beneath composed steel. "Good morning," he said, nodding at staff. His voice calm, controlled. Emily felt heat rise to her face. She clutched the gift in her bag like a fragile secret. As he passed, she stepped forward. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might echo off the marble walls. "Sir, happy birthday." Her voice came out small but steady. Daniel paused, eyes lowered toward her, curious, not irritated. "Thank you, Emily," she breathed. "Now or never, I got you something." Silence. The room froze. Even air seemed to wait. Emily slowly held out the small box, hands trembling. Daniel blinked, not in arrogance but in disbelief. He stared at the gift like it was something foreign, something unreal. "You bought this?" he asked softly. "Yes, sir." His jaw shifted slightly, eyes flickering with an emotion she couldn't interpret. Surprise, confusion, gratitude struggling to surface. Why? His tone wasn't cold, just bewildered. Emily swallowed. "Because you've been kind. And because gratitude matters even when life is difficult." Her voice cracked at the end. She hated that. Vulnerability wasn't allowed here. Daniel looked at the box, then at her. Around them, staff watched like statues, afraid to breathe wrong. He reached out slowly and took the gift, careful, almost gentle. "Thank you," he said, quietly sincere. "This means more than you know." Shock fluttered across the staff's faces. Emily exhaled, tension melting just enough to breathe again. But before relief could fully settle, a sharp voice cut through the room. "What's going on here?" "Victoria Weston, Daniel's cousin, socialite, ice and heels." Her expression sharpened as she spotted the gift. "A maid giving the CEO presents now?" she sneered. "How sweet." "Overstepping your place, aren't you?" Emily froze like a small animal cornered by a predator. Daniel's gaze snapped to Victoria, cold and protective. "Victoria, enough." "But I said enough." His voice didn't rise, but power charged the air. Victoria's smugness faltered. She huffed and slipped away. Emily's hands shook again, this time not from fear of Daniel, but fear of the world around him. A world where kindness looked suspicious and gifts from the poor felt threatening. "Don't mind her," Daniel said quietly, focusing only on Emily. "Not everyone understands sincerity. I appreciate this." His tone carried weight. "Respect." Emily nodded, eyes stinging as she bowed her head. "Thank you, sir." As she walked away, staff whispered, some impressed, some jealous, some confused. And Daniel stood alone for a moment, staring at the neat black box in his hand like it held more meaning than diamonds or gold. Because in a world where people pretended, where everything was strategic and superficial, someone gave without wanting anything back. Someone who had nothing still chose generosity, and for the first time in a long time, Daniel Weston didn't feel powerful. He felt seen. He didn't know yet. But that gift would set off a chain of events that would shake his empire, reveal hidden truths and change both their lives. Forever. Emily tried to focus on polishing the silver trays again, but her hands wouldn't stop trembling. She kept replaying the moment in her mind. Daniel accepting her gift, defending her, speaking kindly. It felt unreal, like stepping briefly into a life where respect wasn't rationed by status, but reality tightened its grip fast. Staff whispered more now, eyes darting toward her in subtle glances, some with surprise, some with envy, some with suspicion, as if her act of kindness suddenly made her dangerous. "Emily," Rosa whispered at the sink, elbowing her gently. "You survived. That's impressive." Emily forced a tight smile. "Barely," Rosa chuckled softly. "Well, now we all know our CEO has a heart," Emily swallowed. Did he? Or was today just rare luck? Before she could reply, a polished heel clicked across the marble floor. Sharp, cold, announcing trouble. Victoria Weston reappeared. This time her poise was sharper, smile thin as glass. "Emily," she called sweetly, but venom sat behind the sweetness like poison hidden in honey. Emily straightened. "Yes, ma'am?" Victoria examined her like a stain she intended to remove. "We have a charity gala tonight. You'll assist upstairs. Personal service areas. Not the usual cleaning." Staff froze. That wasn't a request, it was a test. Or a punishment. "Yes, ma'am," Emily said quietly. When Victoria walked away, Rosa whispered, "She's trying to break you." Emily nodded. She knew, but broken wasn't new to her. She'd shattered before. Poverty did that. Life did that. Love did that, and she learned something. Broken things could still shine. She kept working until evening, hunger gnawing at her stomach. She saved her lunch for her brother. He needed strength more than she did. The mansion transformed at night, glowing with luxury. Gold lights, soft music. guests arriving in gowns worth more than Emily's yearly salary. The air smelled like roses and expensive wine. Emily slipped through hallways quietly, holding a silver tray of champagne with steady care. She blended into shadows, watching worlds she'd never touch. She caught glimpses. Laughing elites clinking diamonds, deals disguised as laughter, fake smiles stretched like silk pulled too tight, the wealthy performing happiness like theater. Then she saw Daniel. He moved through the room with calm grace, shaking hands, offering polite nods. But there was a distance to him, like a man watching his own life from somewhere far away. His suit fit perfectly, but his eyes looked tired, thoughtful, haunted even. A guest clapped him on the back. "Another year ruling the world, Daniel." He smiled politely. "Just doing my best." But Emily heard something beneath it, an emptiness success couldn't fill. Suddenly he saw her. Their eyes met briefly. Shock flickered across his face, not at her presence, but at something else. Confusion? Gratitude still lingering? Recognition of sincerity in a world full of performance? Emily bowed her head quickly and turned away before attention could follow. She didn't belong here. She just worked here. Near the balcony, she overheard two executives whispering, not gossip, strategy. Board is pushing back again. If they dig into the foundation expenses, Daniel has no idea someone redirected funds. Her heart tightened, trouble, a storm brewing, and Daniel, who seemed untouchable, may not be safe at all. She stepped away. This world wasn't hers, and secrets like that weighed heavy. But fate had a strange habit, placing the unseen where truth fell. In a quiet hallway later, Emily leaned against the wall to breathe. Her shoes pinched, her legs ached. She pressed a hand to her chest, calming her thoughts. "Emily?" Daniel's voice drifted toward her. She jumped slightly. He approached slowly, hands in his pockets, expression softer than she'd ever seen it outside his office. "You're working the gala?" "Yes, sir." He studied her, really studied her. Not as staff, as someone trying to understand a person standing in front of him. "You didn't have to get me anything," he said quietly. "I wanted to," she replied. "It wasn't much, it was sincere." His gaze softened. "People rarely give me that," Emily blinked. "I think sincerity is the most valuable thing we have." A faint smile pulled at his lips, but something pained lingered in his eyes. "I used to believe that, used to. Past tense, before money swallowed innocence. Before life hardened him? Before betrayal, maybe?" Emily wanted to say something comforting. But what comfort could a maid offer a billionaire? What could poverty teach wealth about pain? Yet her voice came anyway, soft as a fragile hope. "Maybe you still can." Daniel inhaled deeply, as though her simple words pierced deeper than boardroom arguments ever could. Before he could speak again, Victoria emerged, eyes narrowing as she saw them. "Emily," she said coolly, "the terrace tables need checking. Now." Emily nodded and slipped away, leaving Daniel and Victoria standing in tense silence. "You're slipping," Victoria hissed at him once Emily was gone. "Getting sentimental over staff? Dangerous." Daniel's jaw tightened. "You don't get to dictate who I respect," Victoria scoffed. "She's nothing but a maid." Daniel's voice lowered, sharp as steel. "There is nothing about kindness." Victoria froze. Her icy confidence cracked, but she hit it fast. "Don't say I didn't warn you." She walked away, but her eyes burned with spite. Emily didn't see the exchange, but she felt the shift in the air. Something in this mansion had changed tonight. And it wasn't just her life. It was Daniel's. It was fate unraveling threads neither of them realized were tied. The gift wasn't just a gesture. It was a spark. And sparks in the wrong palace could set empires on fire. Morning sunlight poured through the mansion's glass walls, painting streaks of gold across the polished floors. But Emily barely noticed the beauty as she scrubbed a pristine counter, heart still beating with remnants of last night's tension. Something had shifted. Everything felt fragile, like a crystal vase balanced on a shaking table. Couldn't shake the feeling she'd crossed into a world where she didn't belong, where kindness felt dangerous and generosity drew. Attention like a spotlight. Then she heard it, raised voices, argument, anger, sharp enough to slice air. She froze near the office hallway. Not eavesdropping, just caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. "You think no one sees what you're doing?" Daniel's voice steady but edged with ice. Victoria spat back. You're a fool if you think she cares about anything but what you can offer her. She's playing you like everyone else. Emily's stomach clenched. Were they talking about her? Daniel's reply struck like thunder. You don't know her. She's a maid, Victoria hissed. Do you know what happens when you get soft in business? In life, they use you, and then they destroy you. Emily pressed a hand to her chest. Her breath felt tight. Victoria continued sharply. Your mother trusted people like that too, and it ruined her. Don't repeat history, silence stretched. Pain, thick, heavy, filled the quiet. When Daniel finally spoke, his voice was lower, rawer. Leave my mother out of this. Emily stepped back quietly, retreating before they noticed her presence. She didn't want to be the reason for reopening wounds. She didn't want to divide anyone. All she ever offered was respect, gratitude, quiet existence. But somehow that gift had thrown stones into still water, ripples turning into waves. She sat in the staff room, tremor running through her fingers. Rosa touched her arm. You okay? Emily tried to nod, failed. I didn't mean to cause trouble. Rosa sighed gently. Some people hate what they don't understand, and some hearts panic when they feel something real. Later, Emily was summoned to the main office. Her pulse jumped. Her feet felt like anchors dragging her forward. Is he angry? Regretting yesterday? Did I ruin my job? She knocked. Daniel opened the door himself. Not a secretary. Not security. Him. Come in, Emily. The room was silent except for the hum of city life outside. Papers were scattered, his tie loosened, hair slightly undone. Not like the perfect CEO everyone saw. This Daniel looked human. Worn. Thinking too hard. On his desk sat the gift box she had given him. Open. The silver pen rested inside, untouched but revered like something fragile and sacred. He gestured for her to sit. She remained standing. Is everything okay, sir? He looked at her, eyes searching. You changed something yesterday. Her heartbeat stumbled. I didn't mean to cause trouble. It isn't trouble. He shook his head softly. It's perspective. He leaned forward, hands clasped. People give me gifts all the time. Expensive things. Strategic things. But no one gives without expecting something in return. Emily lowered her gaze. I didn't expect anything. And that, he whispered, is exactly why it matters. Emotion flickered across his eyes. Vulnerable, honest, almost grateful. I wanted to apologize for Victoria's behavior, he continued, and also to tell you something. Emily braced herself. Last night I went through some old files, and I found something. He slid a folder toward her. Hospital bills, medical documents, Noah's name, her brother. Her breath vanished. Panic spiked. I can explain. You don't need to. Daniel's voice was soft. You've been handling everything alone. Working yourself thin, carrying burdens you never once asked help for. Her throat burned. She blinked fiercely. I didn't want pity. He's my family. He deserves care. And you've given it, Daniel said, more than most people ever would. He stood and walked around the desk, stopping a respectful distance from her, not boss to employee, but one human to another. I paid the remaining hospital balance this morning. Emily froze. The world stopped. Sound faded. Time paused. Her voice broke. No, I can't accept that. You already did, he replied gently. It's done. Tears filled her eyes, spilling before she could stop them. Why would you do that? Because you reminded me that humanity still exists, he said quietly. You gave when you had nothing, and I... He exhaled, voice cracking the slightest bit. I have everything and forgot how to give without reason. She wiped tears with trembling hands. You didn't have to... No, he interrupted softly. But I wanted to. Silence settled, warm and trembling. A kind of peace neither expected. Then he added almost shyly, and if you'll let me, I'd like to do more. Not charity, not pity. Opportunity, education funds, career support. A life beyond this uniform. You deserve more than cleaning floors in a world that doesn't see you. Emily's knees nearly buckled. Sir, I don't know how to thank you. You already did, he whispered, with a simple gift and a sincere heart. She looked up, eyes wet but shining. You're a good man, Daniel. He smiled, real, unguarded. the kind that belonged to a boy who once believed in people before wealth complicated life. I stopped believing that for a long time. Emily's voice shook as she said, "Maybe. You just needed a reminder." And in that quiet office, surrounded by skyscrapers and silent wealth, two worlds touched, not through power, not through status, but through kindness freely given. The poor maid who bought a gift. The wealthy boss who gave her a life in return, not because she was useful, not because she asked, but because she gave first without expecting anything, and sometimes that is where miracles begin.